Okay, it's time to talk a little more deeply about Midnight Tides. It's been a little while since I finished this book now. Today, I go all in, full spoil, a rapid review for you. Hi, I'm Jim with Fantasy for the Ages, the father of this father-son duo, where my son Zach and I talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things that we enjoy. Today, a rapid review episode, full spoil coverage with just me, Jim. My son is off gallivanting in other places, but I've got this conversation with you about Midnight Tides. Thanks for joining me. Let's talk about this book, Book 5 of Stephen Erikson's Malazan Book of the Fallen. I know, some of you are like, finally? Like you finished this a long time ago, Jim. Why are you just finally getting to it? Hey, these books require processing, people. I loved this book because it added something so completely different to Malazan Book of the Fallen. The first 4 books were all really neatly tied together. Now, that wasn't entirely clear until I got almost to the end of Book 2, Dead House Gates, but then, marvelously so. I'm like, brilliant! Memories of Ice, House of Chains, Books 3 and 4, clearly extend the story that the first 2 books have put before us, while adding much more richness to the world, its backstory, and just pouring into the players contained therein. Then we get to Midnight Tides, which is simply a story being told by Troll Sengar, the random Tistiadur found and rescued in a warren by Anrak of the Logres Talan Emas. Although he has basically gone rogue, one of the Unbound, but he's still one of these powerful undead warriors, and he stumbles upon this Tistiadur and drags him along behind him, and eventually comes to be part of his party. Troll Sengar is a mystifying and fascinating character. Not so much in House of Chains, but what we come to know about him. I mean, prior to House of Chains, we only knew of the Tisti Andi. Then in House of Chains, we also meet the Tisti Leosin, whom there remains much to discover about. We had heard references to Tisti Idur before we knew anything about Tisti Leosin, but really it seemed like they were all gone, dead, a non-entity. So you had the Tisti Andi and these Tisti Idur who used to be around, and oh, now there's Tisti Leosin too, but wait, there's this one guy, this Troll Sengar now. He still seems alive, and there's something here. Something perhaps to indicate that there's more going on still with the Tisti Idur than we have been led to believe. And Troll, well, he's gonna bring us into the loop. Midnight Tides opens our mind then as Troll Sengar tells this backstory, and we get to see there was so much more that we just didn't know yet. There's a whole freaking culture, civilization, heck, empire of powerful Tisti Idur, dwarfing any of the numbers of Tisti Andi that we've come to know. In this civilization, the Tisti Idur actually enslave humans. They have regular interaction with this bordering nation, the Lethari or Lethari, and the Lethari have plans to take over the Tisti Idur. Oh, are they deceived? That ain't gonna work. And in this book, it flips completely the opposite. At the time of our story, the Idur, they've long been functioning just as rogue warrior tribes, but one leader in particular had a vision to bring them all together to form a great empire with one ruler to rule them all. And just as he's accomplished that, he sends off these 4 brothers, the Sengar brothers, from a clan, a family that's actually very well respected and powerful. But he sends these 4 brothers out to get a mystical object, a weapon that is to be brought to the king. They're not to touch it, they're just supposed to bring it. Well, things don't go exactly as intended. And, that's not so shocking because the king here was being manipulated already by, we find out, the crippled god. He's chosen to take a personal hand in manipulating the Tistiadur and using them for his own purposes. Purposes that are still somewhat unclear, other than to conquer, to get power, to be determined. So I was fascinated by the perspective shared here through Troll Sengar's point of view. Of course, this story doesn't only tell it the way Troll Sengar would have known it, it broadens it out for us. We do get times where it's clearly being seen specifically through Troll's eyes, such as when he and his brothers go off on this mission to the far, icy north to get this magical artifact. The mission does go horribly wrong, and the youngest of the four brothers, Rulad, who's the most tempestuous of them, the least mature of them, the one who's the cockiest and seems like he's got to prove himself better than everyone. I mean, youngest brother syndrome, I guess. He ends up actually grabbing the sword, which was a big no-no. Don't take the sword. And he dies. Not the sword striking him dead. He actually does some very good things on behalf of his brothers when they face a very nasty battle scene. But he ends up dead. And they can't even pry this sword out of his hand. It's just like a death grip. It's held on. There's something going on there. Well, what we come to find out is Rulad has been invested with unearned power. He's now an instrument, a tool of the crippled god. And he doesn't stay dead. But this is done in a what a way. He's dead. So they actually do their full ritual ceremonies to him like they would. Kind of an embalming process, and they take gold coins. That's my background here. Gold coins that they embed on his body all the way around and then coat in wax so they hold, and basically they sear to the skin. And after this process is all done, he comes back to life. Not exactly comfortable because he's coated in gold coins that have been seared to his skin. People, the crippled god has made him sort of immortal and imbued him with ultra mortal power, physical ability. Very impressive. But he can die. He just got brought back to life, and we're going to find out in this story he can still be killed, and then he'll come back again. It doesn't matter how you kill him, he's going to come back again. The crippled god is using Rulad as his pawn. Now, the fact that he can die and come back has the rest of the Tistiadur going, oh, most worshipful one. And he is now their emperor, and nobody will say boo to him. Each time he dies, though, it is a horrible experience for him. It's not fun to die. He feels everything. It's horrible. But then coming back perhaps feels even worse. Physically, mentally, spiritually, it's torture. Ugh. Devastating process, and Erikson writes that extremely well. The crippled god is using Rulad as his tool. He's also now using the Tistiadur as a whole to advance some purposes. And one of the ways he's doing that is letting them tap into magic beyond what we've seen in other books of this series, where everybody's using warrens, the magic of the warrens. No. Tistiadur are going back to old school, older stuff. They're tapping into elder god magic. For the most part, we kind of sense the elder gods had faded away. They weren't gone, but they weren't active and present, and yet there were hints that some of them were starting to come to be again. Well, now we're tapping into elder magic. And ironically, when the warlocks use this kind of magic, it's appropriate. The crippled god put them in touch with it, and using it cripples them. They end up twisted, deformed, burned, dead, depending on how much of this magic they tap into. But they're doing some really kick-butt stuff that nobody else has been able to do, thus making the Tistiadur fairly unstoppable just through paying a huge price. And they will pay this price because when Emperor Rulad says jump, they say, how high and how many times? He is not questioned, except by one person, his brother, Troll Sengar. He's got two other brothers. They're involved in various things, but they're not directly confronting Rulad. Troll does. He tries to stop his brother. He tries to take this mantle, this pawn ship, away from his brother. And it only proves how impossible that is. The crippled god has him in his clutches, and there's no changing that. Troll does the only thing he can. He flees. He runs away because he is not going to bow to Rulad, not because it's his brother. Although he and Rulad did not have the most brotherly, affectionate relationship, that's not what it's at. Troll is the only one who seems to see clearly that this is not good for the Tistiadur. What they are doing now, what Rulad's orders are leading them to become, is evil. It's horrific. In no way does it stay true to the values of who they are as a people, and he will have nothing to do with it. He's the only one brave enough to call it as it is, and then has to flee for his life, basically. I believe Troll is found in House of Chains in that warren by Anrak, the Talanamas, because he had ended up in a world within a warren, that was referenced then in Midnight Tides, how they were going to destroy some of their enemies who were in a warren by flooding that world, using the oceans of another world to magically flood it. Because this world is a completely destroyed, flooded mess when Troll Sengar is saved. So somehow he got put there too. Maybe it's part of his punishment. Maybe it was part of his escape. But things have not gone well for him when he is saved from near death. Now, I haven't mentioned yet that Midnight Tides is not only about the Tisti-Odur, even though I think that is the most significant aspect of it. Those of you who've read the whole series, you are either going, Jim, well noted, or laughing your butts off now, how little I know. But I want to point out that in addition to the Tisti Empire, the Tisti-Odur Empire, and the Sengar brothers, there's also the kingdom of Lethar, one of the most powerful human kingdoms in this region of the world where the Tisti-Odur are. The Lethari kingdom had its eyes on expansion, on taking over the Tisti-Odur by sheer power, by betrayal and manipulation and deceit. They had such plans, but they are not a very unified, righteous kingdom. There's a lot of politicking, there's a lot of corruption, and there's another set of brothers that appear prominently in what's happening with the kingdom of Lethar. So this is really a book of two batches of brothers. So we've got the Sengar brothers, now we've got the Bedict brothers. And I'm only going to highlight two of them, even though there are four that play prominent roles. The two that make the biggest impact in what I think is going to happen as we continue through the series of Malazan is first Bryce Bedict. He's the greatest swordsman of the kingdom, and he is designated as the Sword of the King. I might have that title wrong, but he's the one who is there to protect and be by the side of the king in all things and defend with his life if necessary, the king. And on a mission he's sent on, serving in his role, he goes into another realm, spiritually, psychically, and it's an elder god realm, and he interacts there in a way that frees something. It's a little unclear just what happened there, but it made a big impression on those beings, and whatever happened in this magical, mystical way, near the end of the book, Bryce dies, and one of those beings from that other realm comes and claims his body, basically taking him to be where he has earned a place. And we sense he's not going to stay dead. Hey, it's fantasy. This happens. But the other brother that's particularly fascinating, plays a huge role, is Tahol Bedict. He's a mad genius manipulator. He has a history of doing things financially that has ruined a whole bunch of people that he felt really had it coming. And now he's setting off another plot for things that just need to be done. He, with his manservant, Bugs. Bug or Bugs? One of those. Anyways, this manservant that is, partner in crime, always with him. What a quirky duo. And there's a lot of light, entertaining humor through this pairing that comes about. They do some amazing things, some huge manipulations behind the scenes of things. And we find out late in the book that Bug is actually an elder god, a freaking elder god hiding in plain sight, who's choosing to be the manservant, unpaid, of Tehol Bedict for purposes that are his own. And he's advancing his agenda in this world still. He saves Tehol's life. Actually, Tehol was kind of mostly dead, and he manages to bring him back using some powers. And then Tehol is like, hey, wait a second, you're a little bit more than just my manservant. Yeah, you are. We are. Too bad I'm going to have to take that away from you. And he takes his memories away, except right at the end of the book, we get, oh no, he didn't take the memories away. He decided to let him keep them. There's more that's going to happen with this down the road. But this was just so fun, so entertaining, and so intriguing that there's stuff happening here behind the scenes. The elder gods, because it's not just male, this one elder god, who's involved. We see other actors involved in this series that are kind of in the shadows, taking a role, influencing actions and outcomes, showing they're not just absent. It's not that they don't care. They're still playing a role. And that's going to have something more to do with Malazan Book of the Fallen, I'm quite certain. And again, you might be laughing at me now. What does this all mean? Well, the Tisti Adur, they're not some powerless, used up, nearly extinct group of Tisti. We now know they are a powerful and dangerous force that are being led by an empowered pawn of the crippled god. That can't be good. Everyone and everything we've learned about in the first 4 books is clearly going to be taking a left turn at some point when they come upon the power of the Tisti Adur. You know that's going to butt heads. It's got to be coming. The humans involved in the story, they kind of take a secondary role, but they're not powerless. They've got magic of their own, purposes of their own. And though they end up completely under the rule of the Tisti Adur Empire, the Lothari are still going to have an impact on the story ahead. I have no doubt. Finally, gods of all levels, ascended beings galore, are clearly involved in some grand contest here, bigger than we had any idea before I read this book. And mere mortals, more than ever, are pawns, man. They're going to be used. I just loved Midnight Tides. Just as a story on its own, it was delightful, but I also enjoyed how it opened my eyes to an entirely new perspective on the backstory and the complications behind what's going on in Malazan Book of the Fallen. This series is freaking next level, people. But if you're one of those people that back in the day was like, yeah, I don't know if I should read Malazan, and you're this far now, you know, why did you wait so long to read Malazan? This is incredible. All right, thanks for coming along with me here. I hope you enjoyed my rapid review of this book and the postulating that came along with it. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to like this episode, and please subscribe if you haven't. I got lots of Malazan stuff on here, and I'm going to keep it coming, but we got plenty of other things, all sorts of fantasy, science fiction, and nerdy stuff that you can enjoy. If you want to say anything to me about what I said here, use that comment box. We got lots of subscribers coming in these days, but still not so many that you aren't important. I respond to every comment we receive, so send it my way. Got an email address down there too in the comment box or in the show notes. If you send us an email, we respond to those. Best way to interact with us is our Discord server, and there's an invitation in the show notes. And of course, we're all over social media. Twitter, you know, that X thing, is where I'm most prominent, and find Fantasy for the Ages there and interact. Also, we do have a Patreon. So we have a number of faithful people, I'm going to list them right here, who support us every month. on patreon.com and get a few extra benefits being part of the Fantasy for the Ages family. If you're interested in that, check us out, Fantasy for the Ages at patreon.com. Okay, that's where I'll leave you. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.